It's time for Bet On It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook, the best place in Nebraska to place your sports bets, whether it's in the casino and sportsbook in Lincoln or in Omaha. Warhorse has you covered with nearly every major sporting event and with nearly every way you can think of betting those games. Make sure you get out to warhorsecasino.com for a list of promotions, house rules, all sorts of stuff. You can also download their app to do a parlay, a little sports bet builder, and then go place those bets directly at the casinos in person. That's Warhorse Sportsbook, no bets, no glory. Before we get into things we want to bet on, I wonder if out of breath Brian's betting on anything with these target calls.
He's going to bet that they won't be upheld.
He's going to bet that basically no matter what they do, it's probably not going to make any sense. Brian, what's going on, man?
What's going on, fellas?
Why did you let your Cowboys target my Steelers? Huh?
No, hey, don't give me on. You know what? I'm noticing something about in the degenerate world. Every time the public superstars in the media world pump up and say a team has no chance, I definitely put my money opposite of them because they are always wrong. They pump you up the whole week and tell you that there's no way in the world you have a chance. Like they don't have other players on their team, but that's how I felt. I was like,
that line goes
that way.
That line is I talk about all the time. All things being equal, which means both those two teams are probably pretty equal. The Steelers at home were favored by less than a key number. I hate it. It never works. Like,
can I say something?
What's that,
Damon? I've been going to these high school games. I just want to say this state of Nebraska. I am so scared to sit in the stands with you parents. You guys say some of the most ridiculous stuff. I want to go back. I am scared, Damon. I want to go back on the field and just sit in the corner in the end zone and a little cheer. There's a guy, I'm not going to say he's a parent, but he was at a game of mine that I did at OSA right before, like last year.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to say what he did. We threw the jump ball or tossed it. Let me say an official language. I tossed the ball.
Yeah.
Team won it. They went down the court. One play. First 11 seconds he lapsed in the game, there was a foul. This parent said, call it both ways. I'm saying, well, don't we have to go both ways for me to accomplish that first? And this guy sits in the stands and he says stuff. Parents, if you say stuff like, isn't that you don't know what you're talking about. Shut up. Oh my gosh, I can't take it. When I go to the games, I look for this parent. And I make sure I sit away from him because I can't take it. He says things and he sits there and curses with his kids in the stands.
Oh, boy.
I didn't know that went on. I want to go back on the court. I'd rather have the parents yell at me and call me names from there. Because that's ridiculous. You guys are embarrassing, okay? And I don't even care that we were getting our butts whooped. I know it's developmental, but you guys are ridiculous, okay? Oh, my God. And then speak on ridiculous, the Buffalo Bills game where they called the late hit on the quarterback when Allen slid into the defensive back's legs and he put his hands out just like the shortstop would in baseball on the slide to protect itself, okay? And his legs got kicked from under him and his helmet brushed by his helmet. And then in the Dallas game where they called the one when we hit with the shoulder right into the quarterback's chest, and I'm like, what's going on with football?
Did you?
I almost turned it.
Did you think the first the targeting call that wasn't upheld in the Nebraska game was targeting, where Rutgers DB left his feet?
No, take it back. Yes, I did at first because of the launching. Then I remember, don't you have to have all three elements of it for it to be the call?
Yeah,
that's what I always hear the announcers say on TV, unless they're misquoting like they often do. Because there still is no over the back call. Stop saying that on TV or the radio.
There were some huge targeting calls overturned all weekend. So I don't know if they're a little more self-conscious now in terms of letting guys play football, but it hasn't gone the way of targeting.
They need to revisit it because I don't think the officials are clear on what that is. Or how they have it worded, because I'm that one in the Buffalo game. I'm like, what else do you want the defensive back to do? He came to a stop, and the guy went sliding right at his feet.
Yeah.
If he was the smaller one, and I don't think they should have called that. And I'm like, come on, take it into account what's going on. Their helmets are there to protect them in case their heads incidentally contact each other. That's what they were made for. So if it's incidental contact, I think you should take that into account and not call that. I don't think it's just always a call because there's contact to the helmet. That's what I would say. And it's a game where I think, look, parents, this is a game where you need to put sign out. This is a play at your own risk game. It's always been that way. Yeah, you didn't have to play football. You could have went and play hide and seek with other kids. That's it.
Brian, we appreciate the call, man. I understand that replay and review is necessary because we want to get it right, but there's some unintended consequences to this, right? So we first saw it with we don't know what a catch is anymore, right? When you have to define something by the letter of a law so that you can enforce it on a replay, then you make things a lot more complicated sometimes. Because before that, I could watch somebody.
Say that again. When you define things.
When you define things to the letter of the law so that you can review it on replay, sometimes there are unintended consequences because it's really hard to define what a catch is. But when I see one, at least before, when I saw a catch, I knew it, right? Like you got all the heinous examples of like Calvin Johnson in the end zone not completing the catch or the Des Bryant or whatever, right? You got these horrible examples of it, and you're like, yeah, those are clearly catches. But by the letter of the law, the umpire, the referee, whoever, the replay official is right that they didn't complete all phases. But I know that Calvin Johnson caught that ball, right? But then it's the same thing with targeting, right? I know that Isaiah Nair play was targeting, right? Did it meet all three criteria? I don't know, but that's targeting. Just like I know that some of the other stuff I see isn't, even though, okay, maybe there was contact on a helmet, but he doesn't launch.
Was it worse on the kickoff and you felt like the block in the back let him off the hook? Because he did.
No, that was clearly targeting.
He did.
I would say he might have got blocked in the back. He didn't get pushed his head down into Ramir Johnson.
It's just weird. It was.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I watched that one and I go, yeah, that's targeting.
I thought for sure it was.
They're like, no. He got pushed a little bit. Like it's when you have to define things for the purpose of replay, you lose the spirit of what we're trying to do here. We saw it with the neighborhood play in baseball too, right? With turning double plays. Yeah. Everybody for 100 years was okay with the fact that like, hey, he's going to leave the bag a little bit early so he doesn't get spiked in the shin, right? Now it's like, oh, wasn't on the bag. It's like, yeah, we're trying to avoid people getting Dustin Pedroia by Manny Machado out here. And
why you got to bring up Manny Machado?
Because he's the worst.
No, believe me.
Like
you should have caught his act last night.
I understand that replay can be super useful. The problem is we've completely lost the subjectivity of like, yeah, common sense tells me that's a catch. We're going to go ahead and let that happen. But you can't, like, nobody's willing to say that out loud.
Is it just me? It did seem like there was an inordinate amount of targeting this weekend overturned.
Yeah, a lot. And that's, again, we've lost the spirit of, hey, maybe we should try and make this a little bit safer, because that's the goal, right? The goal of the targeting penalty.
Look, there it is right there.
Right? The goal of the targeting penalty is trying to make football a little bit safer, right? Trying to legislate some of these hits out of the game so that a new generation of players doesn't grow up hitting people that way, right? That's the goal. But we've lost that because now they're hitting people the same way. They're launching at people. They're doing things like that we think is dangerous, but the letter of the law doesn't specify that in and of itself is illegal.
I'm tracking.
And now we've lost the point of the entire thing, right? We've lost the forest for looking at the trees.
Who, in your opinion, because I do want to kind of get back to the
100%
just for a second. Who's in more trouble?
Okay.
The Bengals or the Bills?
Bengals, I think.
Because of the division or because of where their team is? Because they look more. They look to be less disjointed than the Bills.
Yeah, I think
the last 2 weeks the Bills have looked atrocious.
Part of it though is because of, part of it's just the records are what they are at this point, right?
I mean, I get it. The Ravens are clearly good.
Yes, but that's also a game that Cincinnati clearly could have won.
Yeah, they were much more competitive than Buffalo was.
I get that, but that's also a game that Buffalo could have won, right? Like against a team that
You talking about Houston? Well, they trailed the whole way.
I know, but it ends up being a 3-point. You could win that game. Now, I'm not saying they should have, but they definitely could have won that game. And at a certain point, the records are what the records are in a division where you don't have to be good to get out of the AFC East. And I think the hill's already too big to climb for Cincinnati. They're not getting out of this hole.
You know what I'm going to bet on?
I'll bet on that.
I'm going to bet on the fact that the Commanders are going to be
pretty good all year?
Yeah.
You know what I'm going to bet on?
Because that's what I said in the summer.
Joe Burrow's not – the Bengals aren't going to be any good until they can figure out how to keep Joe Burrow alive.
It's incredible,
It's really bad.